Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for coming out on such a cold night. I can't believe that you all are here. This is fantastic to see this many people. I hope it's okay with you. I'm just going to keep my bean boots on just in case for the parking lot out there, and I would expect you all to have yours on too. It's great to see you. I'm Phil Rodenberg. I'm the general manager of the association. I'm starting my 13th year with the association, and it's been my pleasure to serve you all these years, and tonight to bring you, along with my colleagues, a summary of the budget proposal. The budget process is a very thorough one here at Lake of the Woods. I've never seen anything like it in all my work with local governments or looking at other associations. We do a very thorough job of making sure that what we bring you is vetted. And so we'll talk about that some, but tonight it's not the budget until we hear from the membership. So we're here tonight to hear from you. Who here is, raise your hands if you're here because you're interested in something on the fee schedule. Okay, quite a few hands. Who here is interested in the dock fee? Lots of hands, okay. Who here is interested in the assessment? That was kind of a trick question. Everybody's hand ought to go up on that one, right? Because that's what the budget does. It sets the assessment for the year. It sets what we need from the members from the assessment to get that done. So our job today is to give you an overview of the budget. We're going to come at it from different ways, and we hope that it'll help you understand what's going on. I hope you were able to look at Lake Currents. That summarized where it stands right now. And we'll answer your questions. We'll stay and answer questions as long as we can. I'll introduce my colleagues here. We've got Charlie Manival. He's our Director of Finance. And we've got Joe Beckwith. He's our Director of Maintenance and Ecology. And Carolyn Brodeur, our Assistant GM and also Communications Manager. All right, let's dive in. As I said, we'll be taking different looks at the budget from different ways. And if you'll bear with us and let us get everything said, then it's all about you. We can hear all about you. Let's all keep in mind that our meetings are governed by Regulation 1 that says we'll all follow good decorum, right? We'll be ladies and gentlemen while we're here together. And so we ask that you do that. We ask that any comments you make not be of a personal nature, that you keep it focused on LOA-centered business. And I wanted to recognize we have some board members with us tonight. So your comments will be heard by them and by all of them at some point. So Rick Rappaport, our president, is here. Way back in the back row, Jim Zavril is right back there with him. Bill Kay, our treasurer. Frank D. Pasquale is right there. Vasa Olson is up here. Leif Henneke is there. And Walt Dirks, he may be, oh, there he is. Okay, all present. So all the board members are here to hear whatever your comments are to the staff, and the board will hear it as well. And Carolyn, how many folks do we have on Zoom?
We are currently at 65 participants
65?
on Zoom. I would just like to remind everybody to please make sure that I know there's some phone numbers on there. Those are people who are calling in by phone, but if you are on a computer, please make sure your name is identifiable so we know that you're a member.
Yes, we'd appreciate it very much. This meeting is for members, and if we can identify yourself by first, last name, your lot and section number, that will tell us that you're a member here at this meeting. So we appreciate it. Okay, let's dive right in. Let's go to the next page. So this presentation and the entire budget is available on LOA.org. I hope you get a chance to look at LOA.org. It's one of the best websites of associations. A lot of times when I go look at an association, it's all locked down. You can't look at anything. You gotta ask permission to look at it. So we got one of the best darn ones in the whole state. And a lot of it goes to the credit of Carolyn Brodeur and her team. But this presentation and the budget are on those pages, and you can look at past budgets as well. All right, let me give you a snapshot of the budget, just some things to think about. As I said, we'll look at it different ways today. The assessment goes to, if you could, Sue, if you could advance it to the assessment slide, please, budget overview. We got Sue and Alex helping us tonight. And they're passing out a copy of the summary for you. Also, thank you to Chief Harrell of our security team to be here with us tonight. There we go. Okay. The assessment is $2,080. It's the first time that it's gone over 2,000. All right. The increase over, we're talking about the assessment. We're talking about what we bill your lot, changes $110 per lot. Operating wise, it's the elements that go into it. There are 3 elements. It makes one assessment. It's all one assessment. Operating is $1,538 per lot. That's a 15% increase. The capital is $454 a lot. That's 2.5% increase. And the CARC that has to do with the Oh, we've got some hand signals. I'm just trying to catch up and see if they were talking to me. The clubhouse area recreation complex CARC is $88 a lot. And this is the final year, folks. We're almost there. We've almost paid off that entire loan. And that's a 54% decrease. And we'll talk about that more. The tenant fee goes up fairly sharply. The tenant fee is $5 less than the operating and maintenance and capital number. So it's basically the assessment minus CARC. So that goes to $1987. The fee schedule, last 2 years, we've done fees across the board, increases across the board. So this year, not across the board. There were some selective changes on that. And we'll talk about that more. The base inflation assumed, inflation's been crazy the last 2 years. What rate would you use if you were building the budget? Would it be high or would it be low? So we used 3%. We thought that was a fair number that would represent where we are right now. So we built that in. Salaries and benefits, salaries increased 5%. 3% of that is COLA and 2% is merit. And the benefits go up an average of 6%. The last couple of years, we've had to give raises to retain people. And now this year, we're not going as high as we did the last 2 years, but we built upon those numbers to retain staff. So what's the big difference this year? What's going on that is driving the assessment? Well, one thing is the board has challenged the staff to present to them what it takes to run this association in the best way possible. And that means think of it as a 7-day-a-week operation. You know, it used to be that when we left for the weekend, we just leave Chief Harrell and all his officers, they're in charge. If anything comes up, they'll just take care of it and tell us what happened on Monday. Boy, those were the good old days. This place now is 7 days a week, it's 24/7 all the time. And we have programs. Of course, we've always had things on the weekend, but now we have software, and we have more groups meeting. We've got a lot more going on than we used to, and we need to make sure that we're staffed in a way that we can cover all those things, because what we're doing is not enough. And we'll talk about that. So we believe that this budget positions us to manage large capital projects. We definitely have some big ones coming down the line. Improve messaging about the plans and decisions that the board's making. And that's one thing the board says we want to include members in what's going on. We need them to know these decisions we're making. We want them to join us in this conversation. So we have to do more of that. So engaging members in this decision making. We want to make sure that the amenity opportunities are out there for people to know about. We want to troubleshoot business system problems. If we have something going on here and it goes down, who's going to come in and take care of it? If there's a problem with tech control or something like that, who's available to do that? Do we have to get Charlie to come in from his house, or who's set up to do that? And we also want to improve our writing programs, because we feel like that is the best way our equestrian center can bring in revenue if we emphasize writing programs. And we also want to support evening meetings like this one and restaurant events. So we'll talk more about that, because that has to do with fairways. What else is the difference this year? Well, the board wanting to make sure that you had this information tonight, took some actions on January 6th. And they put some issues out there, and that was one of the issues that we covered in lake currents. The first one is they added a dock fee of $100 for all the docks on the main lake and Keaton's Lake. And the revenue from that is $76,600. And that's for lakes priorities. All that money goes into something called the 303 Environmental Resources Budget, and it goes to offset all the costs that's in that operating fund. It's an operating fund, not a capital fund. The second thing they did is recognizing that we're having a hard time retaining staff in the grounds department, at fairways, at the clubhouse, and other places. They put a placeholder in of $150,000 so that we could do a market pay adjustment after we do a salary study. And that salary study is taking place right now, and we'll have the results in time for the board to look at on February 21st. That's the day that they're adopting the budget. So they'll have that information. They'll be able to make that decision. So that's why it's called a placeholder. And then the last item that the board added to the budget was $75,000 placeholder for lake health and water quality issues of Keaton's Lake. So that's directly related to Keaton's Lake. It's not earmarked for anything in particular. It could be used for testing and treatments and studies and dredging and all kinds of activities, but it has to go back to the board. The board has to say, yes, we want to spend it on that topic. So it has to be beyond what the normal work we're doing at Keaton's Lake. Okay. Head count. The head count changes. You can see the difference between the 2 years on the 24-25 head count. Full-time goes up. In this budget, I outlined the positions. I'll outline the positions for you right now. That one's in the back. Okay, we'll get to this slide later, but there are 5 positions I want to tell you about. The first is the Communications and Member Engagement Manager. And you might say, wait, isn't Carolyn already in charge of that? And the answer is yes, Carolyn is in charge of that. But she's also the AGM, and there's a lot of work that has to be done at the general manager level to support the board. It takes a lot of work to do that. And so we are looking to staff up by adding a communications and member engagement manager to take care of to work on the messaging of the department. So Carolyn would take one step away from that. We would hire somebody to take that position. Business systems coordinator. This would be a person that would work for Charlie, but have Saturday or weekend hours. And this person would make sure that all the systems are running properly over the weekend. All the software that security uses, anything that is running at the restaurants, anywhere there's amenities, it would be a person that could help us troubleshoot that. That person would also have week time hours as well, but would be there for the weekend. The third position is a third shift supervisor at Fairways. Now, why can't we get people to stay for some work for us? Part of it is where we are in the world. We got Fredericksburg over here, we got Culpeper over here, and we're sort of in the middle. And so we're not right where people necessarily want to work. So we need to do something more to keep them here. We've noticed that when we've retained people, when we get people to come in and work for us, they'll jump as soon as they find something that pays a little bit more, or they can find something with benefits. So what we're offering here is the benefits to someone to be our third shift supervisor. And that, we believe, will help us to have the evening programs that everybody wants and the hours everyone wants, so that we can have this full offering, because nobody likes to come up to our buildings and see a sign that says we're closed, or we have to close early, or something like that. We hate that too. We always want to make sure the amenity is there for you when you want to use it. And so that third shift supervisor is going to help us do that. We converted some part-time positions. We've converted 2. One is the capital projects manager. We were fortunate to have a gentleman with us for a couple of years, I guess 3 altogether. He was a retired architect. He lived here in the community, and he said, I wouldn't mind coming to work for you part-time. And so he was a very knowledgeable person about the field, and he gave us quite a bit of valuable input. But he's moving on, and so it's time to fill that position. And we said, this is an opportunity to get someone in that position that can help us manage this array of projects. And in a minute, we'll talk about capital projects and you'll see what I'm talking about. And the last position is a barn worker instructor at the Equestrian Center. Now, again, we have plenty of people that work at the Equestrian Center, but if we expect them to do many hours or be in that position of an instructor, they expect to get compensated a little more for that. And they would also like to get some benefits, either that or they're, again, as I mentioned earlier, the next time something comes up, they're gonna leave and go on. They might not even give us 2 weeks notice, just head on. So these are staff positions that we'd like to have. It increases our head count, and you can take a look at what our head count is there. So let's do a budget overview. And if you're a numbers person, you'll like this. If you're not, I'll try to make it as painless as possible, okay? There's a lot on this slide right here. So when you look down the left side, you see all the elements of what goes into the budget. The operations spending, contribution to replacement reserve. Sometimes we use the phrase CTR, contributions to reserve. This one has to do with the replacement aspect in particular. The new asset and improvement, that's basically new capital items. Contingency, that's for emergencies or something that pops up in the year. And the NCR interest, new construction and renovation, that's on the private lots. And then the interest from our accounts, because interest rates have gone up lately and we've been able to budget some money for that. So those are the elements that go in. And then you see under that the amenity revenues. So let's take a look at what's going on this year. Operations spending is $11,321,473. And that, so about 11.3, and it goes up 1,170,511. So it goes up a little less than $1.2 million. So what's driving that? Let's figure that out. Let's unpack that. Contribution to replacement reserve, it's about the same as the previous year. We had some projects come off, we had some projects come on. So it's not much different. 2,272,773, a difference of 20,122. New asset and improvement. Now, last year we had a lot more big projects. We had the engineering study for the front gate. We had the Fairways patio. Have you all seen that? So that's a couple of the projects we did. One was an engineering study. One was this physical project out back on the patio. And there were some other ones, but when we compare year to year, the amount actually goes down 75,000. Now contingency, we've got money in the contingency reserve that we don't have zero in that. That means there's no change. We didn't need any money. There's plenty of money according to our reserve policy. We're supposed to have $100,000. Now we can talk about, is that enough? Should we increase that? And the answer is probably yes, because we basically use that for insurance deductibles whenever we have those. But we have over 100,000, so we didn't add anything this year to contingency. Now, NCR, again, that's from the private lots, and interest, there's $340,000, and that is 66,250 less than what we had the year before, right? Less. Okay. So the total budget, 13,254,246, a difference of 1.2 million. So we'll talk about that. Now, amenity revenues, we get to count whatever amenity revenue we have against all that. And once we apply that, 4,766,963. And by the way, that's 309,993 different, lower than last time. Excuse me, higher than last time. These parens throw me off a little bit sometimes, but that's higher. We got 309,993 more money to put in. It gives us our break-even number. Now, that's the number we use to calculate the assessment, 8,487,283, and that's a difference. So that the break-even number went up 906,646. Now, what does that mean when we break it down? And it means that the ongoing operations and maintenance and capital replacement, that's sort of the core of the budget, is 1992 or 213 or 12%. That's a 12% increase. That part of it went up to 13. And I know I've heard from some members that said, wait a second, you said the assessment's only going up this much, but in actuality, O&M and capital is going up 213. We sure see that. We see that, but we were comparing assessment you're paying now versus assessment you're going to pay next year. So yes, it is $213 different. Now the CARC portion of that, it's all in one budget. It's all in one assessment. There's not two different assessments. The CARC project portion is $88, and that's 103 or 54% decrease. We thought it was going to be more, but it ended up being $88 still. So this year, when you write that assessment check, we're basically at the end of our end of our payments. And remind me what we think the final payoff is going to be. Do you remember which month? We can look it up. November of this year will be done. Woohoo! We'll be done with that. That loan will be over. So the proposed assessment per lot is $2,080. It's a difference of 110 or 5.6%. But we show the math here. Yes, the folks that have said it's 213, you can see it there and how the CARC plays into that to bring it down. Okay, so what's driving the assessment? Well, if you look at the next page, you can see some of the factors that went into it. 1970 is our current assessment. At the bottom is 2080, and you can see all the items that factored into it relative to their size. Increase in salaries and benefits, 182. This is what it's $182 on the assessment more. Contractual services increase. What's behind contractual services? If you think about it, it's labor, right? You've got security, and you've got international golf maintenance. You've got our pool contractors, and you've got other contractors that do work for us. It's labor, so that's in that number too. Contractual services, $73. A decrease in NCR use, $12. Increase in business insurance, 7. Decrease in reserve interest income, 4. Amenity revenue increase netted out, 30. Fee increases, 32. Decrease in CARC portion of the assessment, $103, and everything else, 3. So when it all nets out, that's how we got to where we are, and you can see what's driving it. So where does money come from? Well, we know that it comes from the members, right? You're paying it in your assessment. You're paying it when you go to the amenities or when you have a fee, the administrative fee that you have to handle. So we understand it comes from the members, but we've sliced it up so you can see that it's mostly the assessment, 65%. The amenity revenues is 29%, and administrative fees 6%. That would be the tenant fee, disclosure packet. What do we call them now? We call them resale certifications. So all those go into barcodes for contractors and all those kinds of things. If you look at the 101 budget, the administrative budget, you can see where those are. That's where the money comes from. So where does it go? You can see some of the big categories. Maintenance, I'll tell you, that's healthy. That number is 588, by the way, in the yellow. That's a good sign. We want to spend money on maintenance. We always want to have a wet paint sign. We're doing something to make something better. And the next number is the reserves, 454. That's very healthy. When you look at our association, you see that we take on our expenses. We don't kick them down the road. We take them on, and we reserve for the inevitable replacement of those items. And we have a plan. We have a 40-year plan that we follow. It's called the Miller-Dodson study, or the repair and replacement reserve study. Any way you want to look at it, but it's there, and we follow that year after year, and we update it, and we keep it fresh as we can. Amenities, we're spending it so we can have those amenities open and use, the members can use them. Administration, and what it takes to manage the association, the CARC piece, that's the 88 again, and security. Security is 223, and it's our largest contract. Security contract is our largest contract. So here's the coin chart, and you can see some of the big categories. If we can advance to the next slide. And I believe you have this on the back of your handout. You can look at that. always healthy sign, I think, all the way over to the right, you see contribution to reserves. We take on our expenses, we deal with them, these replacement items that we have to keep up. So anytime we add something new, we have to add some money to replace it later. And in a 40-year plan, it could be that we replace something 2 or 3 times over 40 years. So that reserve is keeping track of that and making sure that when we get to the year that something has to be replaced, we have the money there to do it. We don't say, oh my gosh, how are we going to get $40,000 or $100,000 to do this? Well, we've got a reserve plan. It's part of our financial preparation to do that. So you can see if you go down the line, administration is at $367. You see security, $223. You go over in the middle, that's general maintenance, that $299, and you see $454 over there for capital reserves. You see that one that goes under the line there, $18, that's the fitness center. That's the one where that actually throws money off and that we can apply to the bottom line. And so I won't go over each of these, but you've got the handout and you can see how everything stacks up on those coins. All right, let's talk about ongoing operations and maintenance and capital replacement. Here you see what the revenues and the expenses and what the subsidy works out to be. So for operations, if you look at if you look at the revenue we're bringing in, 4.76 million, and the expense is 11.3 million, we need a subsidy of a little more than 6.5 to get it done. Contributions to reserve, the expense is 1,932,773. That's what we need for the subsidy. And so you see how it all totals up, 4.76 million compared to on the revenue expense of 13.2 million. And the difference is that number we saw earlier when we were talking about break even, 8,487,283. So that figures into this amount of $19.92 per lot. That's for that ongoing piece. And you can see the breakdown, operating and capital. And then you can see that we added CARC to the bottom of it, and that gets you to 2080. All right, let's talk operations. Then we're going to talk about capital, and we're going to talk about the fee schedule after that. So that's the order of the next part. So here are the differences in the budgets. The first one is administration, and you see that it's got an unfavorable delta, which means we need more money for administration, and that's part of what's driving that are the salaries, of course, salaries and benefits, but also we have a restaurant consultant in that amount this year. We have some ongoing consultants that we have in our budget. For example, the reserve specialist consultant. We've got that study in there, and that's about a little more than what it usually is because this year we do something called a condition study, and we can talk about that later. But we also do an independent audit. That's always in administration. But this year, the board asked that we retain a consultant to look at our food and beverage operations and see if there's a better way to do that. So that amount is in there. Security, that's pretty straightforward. That's our security contract. It's our biggest item, and that contract is going up $74,896. That includes what it takes to have security here on a 24/7 basis. And that's with even counting the use of the all box to close at night so we don't have an officer in the hub. By the way, we have an officer in the hub last night and tonight because of the icy roads. But for the most part, you have to use the all box to get in if you're a guest. But that contract is going up almost 75,000. Communications, difference of 77,659. Part of that is not as much revenue as we had hoped, but we're always pushing to get more revenue for ads. But that's where the new manager is going to be. That new communications and member engagement manager is going to be in that budget. Going on to the next slide, the fitness center. There's there's that part that where we have a favorable delta of almost 10,000 that goes to the bottom line. That helps us balance the budget. On equestrian, it goes up almost $30,000. And in that, we have more revenue for riding lessons. We also have the barn and instructor that's going to be there. There's going to be that full-time position. It'll be the third full-time position in that department, and it'll have benefits associated with it. The pool goes up a little less than 6,000. A couple of things involved with that. We heard from members that said they really want morning hours back in August because we were cutting back hours when public schools open. And so we've added back some hours to have those August mornings for the pool. And also we have to take care of some maintenance items that don't get scored as capital. It's basically the sand filters. We have to replace the sand in the sand filters, and that's not cheap. So that's what's behind that one. Community activities, a little more than 15,000. Again, salaries are driving that. Operation costs. Going to the next page, golf operations, that's actually a favorable percentage. We have the annual memberships. We didn't change the membership fee there. We believe we can retain members and get new ones, and that'll help us there. That's also the daily rounds. That's also the product sales. We think we'll do well on the product sales. And we've heard from members that say they want to have a logo that doesn't say golf on it, but they want Lake of the Woods. And some of you might have some of that wear on tonight. Just that says Lake of the Woods, it doesn't say golf club. So we've heard you on that, and that's where you would find it at the pro shop. The clubhouse, almost 50,000 unfavorable on that. There's more banquets and events, but there's also increased salaries and benefits that we have to offset there. Fairways, that's a difference of over 86,000. That's related to the shift supervisor. But we've also got increased salaries and benefits in that as well. But we do count on additional revenue, but also we've got to retain the staff. Going to the next page, you'll see the four maintenance departments. You got the general maintenance, and general maintenance is increasing their cost by 157,662. What's driving that? Salaries and benefits. And also that's the conversion of the part-time capital projects manager to full-time is in that budget. And also in that budget is some more contractual work for our HVAC systems to make sure that we're checking our HVAC systems so we don't have any issues. That's twice a year checking that. And also duct cleaning, not duct cleaning, duct cleaning. And that will be done at the clubhouse. Is that right? Yep. Okay. Clubhouse will be the first year that we clean all the ducts for that. All right. Roads is fairly, for the size of budget it is, it's fairly even. It's a little more than $4,500 difference, and it's operating costs are driving that. Grounds, an increase of a little over 11,000. Again, operating costs related to salaries. Environmental resources, we're splitting the department up this year. The environmental resources is more the lakes manager type of work, and we also have covenants enforcement in that. We're going to break those apart. Our inspector is going to become our covenants manager. And so that's a difference of over 67,000 to retain that staff. That's where the dock fee would go. It would go to this budget. And also the expense of the 75,000 for Keaton's Lake. It would be in this budget here, the environmental resources budget. All right, we're almost to the end of what I'm going to say, and we're going to get ready to talk about the capital spending. But let's talk about contribution to reserve versus capital spending. Important difference. Contribution to reserve is what we put aside every year to make sure that we have what we need to have our replacement items. If a floor, if a set of doors. If we need to do some work at the pool, that's capital, all that's in the plan. So we'll talk about what those are, but you can see how it breaks down into the different categories. But the main one is the repair and replacement reserve, because the first thing we ought to reserve for is the replacement of what we already have as opposed to going out to do something new. But you can see the change from FY23 is 54,878. So for over $2 million worth of work, that's not a whole lot of difference in that. We talked about this earlier, the new asset and improvements. We don't have as many expenses on that one. Contingency, we talked about that. So we are applying some interest. And so when it comes to the assessment, we're providing two other sources of funds to help offset the assessment. One is new construction and renovation funds, and that's 250,000. And then the rest is the interest. That's 90,000. So 250,000 and 90,000. Those are amounts that are not in the assessment. We're able to use some funds that we'll have on hand at that point, or we'll gain the interest during the year. So the total NCR is 1,932,773, and that's a difference of over 46,000. And so you can see how it works out. It's $454 a lot to keep this place going. So that's what we're reserving. Now, what we're going to spend is on the next page, and those numbers don't match. The reserve is by formula, and we know how much to collect to make sure there's always funds there. But what we're actually going to spend this next year is $2,985,686, which is a difference of almost $400,000. And you can see it's all in that repair and replacement line, and you'll get a taste of what's in there driving those numbers this year. So at this point, we're ready to talk about the repair and replacement reserve, and I'm going to ask that Carolyn and Joe lead us through that part, and Charlie will do the fee schedule when we get there.
Good evening, folks. I am so glad to see such a wonderful turnout here tonight, here in person and on Zoom. I hope that we will be able to answer your questions tonight. I know everyone has a lot of them, but we're going to dive into a little bit of the repair and replacement. This is where we take care of the assets we already have and repair them as needed or replace them as needed. So looking up here, I know it's difficult to see, but I promise you we will make this available electronically online. We do have a little bit of technical difficulties. The file is huge, so we haven't been able to upload it just yet to the website, but it will get up there tonight. Clubhouse. You'll see the key components. We have some kitchen equipment. We have some heat pumps that we are working on. And one of the biggest items for the clubhouse is the refurbishing of the wrought iron deck furniture. So that's going to be the heavy lift for that department. For Equestrian Center, we have just one item. That's a storage shed for sawdust. For community activities, we have an assortment of fitness equipment, both for the fitness center as well as for the outdoor recreation areas that we have in the community. And the largest items that you'll see are going to be the Green Springs playground equipment. So that is a like-for-like replacement. We are going to be replacing the school-age play set, which has already been removed from that during the summer, this past summer. And also, and one of the heavier items in that one is the main pool. That's the clubhouse pool, white coat and expansion joint treatment. Next slide, please. And looking at this slide here, at administration, and this is my last section, and I'm going to hand off the mic to Joe. This is we have workstations, computer switches, and desktop monitors. So those are the tools we need to keep our business operating.
First of all, I want to say thanks for me being here for the first time. And we are going to be very busy this coming year. But let me start off with saying that the first one I'd like to talk about is 427. It's really the sixth fairway. It's the retention basin. This is a very intense project, and it's going to be going on for some time. In fact, that is designed for AMT is our engineering and design environmental consultant engineering firms are going to be taking care of that job. It's approximately 8.63 acres. So it's a pretty big project. The next one is the ditch restoration and improvement project. That is the stormwater management improvement that will be going to be taking place. The next one would be the Westover Storm Stabilization Phase 1 project. This is a stream that is from the golf court to the lakes. And that's a very, also a hot project that we'll be working on as well. The next one will be, my notes up here. The next one is the Lake Parkway resurfacing. This entails about 4,400 linear feet. Very large project. And this is going to be resurfacing. It's going to be some millwork involved and also some asphalt is going to be involved in this project. Same thing to the next one. It's 44 linear square feet. Again, there's going to be some millwork and some asphalt that's going to be done in that project as well. The next one is the Lake of the Woods Route 3. This is involved extension from the gate, the new gate project that's going on. So we're going to do an extension to go further up on right off in that project that the resurfacing of the roads. And that's going to entail some millwork and also some asphalt as well. The next one is the main arena parking lot area. That's going to be the tar and chip phase of it, and that's going to be section 5, 6, and 7. That's going to be also an intense project that we're going to be embarking on this year. Next one is 8. It's the golf cart path 3 holes. And that one is going to be golf court path. It's going to be 3 areas, golf court 4, 9, and 10. That's going to be involving millwork and asphalt as well. And last but not least is the main gate traffic congestion relief. And I know everybody's waiting to see that happening. So that's going to be doing it almost in the end of the year, but that's a major project as well, the expansion. And that's it. We go to okay. The next page is the Lakeview Parkway resurfacing. And this is involved in phase 6 and 7. As you can see on the yellow, that's the areas that we're going to be resurfacing in that area. Again, there's going to be some millwork and some asphalt work is being involved. Next slide. Okay, this is a CAT, and it's the excavator. It's a very old unit, and the Miller Dyson says it's time to be replaced. So we're going to be replacing that. We had a good time with that, but it's time to replace it. Okay. And it's Charlie. Thank you very much.
Let's talk new asset and improvement. So just to recap, in case you weren't part of the process, every year the planning committee puts out a request for new asset and improvement requests forms. They go through the planning committee. We have, they review each of the requests. The planning committee makes their recommendations to the board, and the board decides which ones we can absorb in the next fiscal year. So next slide, please. These are the ones that were approved for this year. Well, as of right now, that are in the budget for this coming fiscal year, FY 24-25. 9.9 access control gate. What this purpose of this is that we have a number of contractors, members who abuse the privilege of 9.9, the leaf and brush drop area in Lake of the Woods. They unfortunately dump things that should not be dumped there, and our crews spend a lot of time and resources trying to clean up after them. So this gate will help us limit the access to that area based off of barcodes, and also sell access control barcodes to vendors and contractors, and we can turn off the privilege if someone abuses it. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you the brand name of this product right here. This is a big ass fan. So, and that's a brand name for it. So, but this has been a long time coming for the Equestrian Center outdoor covered ring. It is a massive, and like doesn't even cover it, but it is a massive fan designed to circulate air within the covered ring to help reduce the heat that is in that area during the summer, so that we can run more lessons, bring in more revenue. Next slide, please. Hollyfield Park, potable water courts. This is a big request from our pickleball players and our tennis players. We would like to see it achieved this coming year. And we want to put a commercial grade drinking fountain and water spigot for hoses, and so that our members can have access to water out at Hollyfield Courts. If you haven't joined pickleball, why not? Next slide. There we go. Wood Center automated door controls. These would be the handicap accessible door controls, the button operated kind. Next. Community Center proximity card reader for exterior doors. So this door is the one that's located directly down this hall behind us. What's wonderful about it is that when we get these types of access control cards, we eliminate the need for keys for our members. So we have a limited number of keys. If you've ever been here on Labor Day weekend or any of the other big Columbus Day weekend, any of those big fall weekends where there's a ton of stuff going on, sometimes our staff run out of keys. And you guys have to cooperate with each group, has to pass the key on to the next person in order to get in. In this case, we'll be able to set their member access control card to be able to get into the building. Next slide. This project has been a long time coming. This is Patrick Henry Court to Small Marina Drainage Improvement Project Phase 1 and 1A. This will help remedy some flooding. It is a stormwater project, right? It is a stormwater project. So one of the things you're going to see from coming out of this that hasn't been talked about a lot is there's going to be a retention or detention pond. Detention pond, dry pond in the Hollyfield Park. So that will be a new feature that you're going to see there, but it's going to help us revamp that park a little bit and use the space a little more efficiently.
Okay, so now we'll move on. We're going to do a little bit of refreshing. Phil had mentioned earlier about the head count, the couple of items on the head count slide. So I won't spend a lot of time on that, but very quickly, the total head count will be going, we plan for next year is going up from 147 to about 148, with a breakdown between full-time and part-time. Full-time going from 59 employees to 63, and part-time dropping from 88 to 85. So, and then Phil had discussed the changes on the next slide, that we would be adding communications and member engagement manager, a business systems coordinator, and a third shift supervisor at Fairways. And then we're converting capital projects manager and a barn worker instructor. So those are taking place next year. And now we'll talk about the fee schedule. So if we can go on to the next one. There are fee schedule changes are typical every year. Last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of fee schedule changes. There are numerous items on the fee schedule, and there were a lot of changes over the last couple of years. This time, we are increasing fees on several items, but not nearly as many as we have in the past. Our administrative fee increases are ranging from 10.5% to 66%. And our amenity fee increases are ranging from negative 25%, because we actually dropped the fee, and then we up to 100% because we did add a new fee this year. Average fee increase overall is about 12% for those changes that took place. Go to the next slide. So I thought I'd go through the changes fairly quickly on the different schedules. We do have the copy of the budget out there on the website, and you can get a copy of the fee schedule to take a look at in detail. As anytime you make a change to the budget and the assessment, the tenant fee is automatically impacted. So the tenant fee is going up from $1,774 to $1,987, and that's formula based on the annual assessment. We are raising the late fee charge as well from $95 to $105. And the credit card fee, that if you pay your annual assessment only by credit card, we're raising that fee from $30 to $50. That's just being applied against annual assessment payments only paid by credit card. We are adding a new fee at Marina and Lakes this year, the dock fee. So this will be a first time charge for that. So it's $100 per dock at both Main Lake and Keaton Lake. It does not apply to boat slips. It's just to docks and lifts. Proposed. Yes. And the annual slip rental is for the marina slips. For the large slips is going up from $970 to $1,000, and the small slips are going up from $820 to $850. The storage area annual dry sale lot is going from $450 to $600. And the vehicle storage is also going from $500 to $600. And these are all very similar type storage areas. So we're trying to realign and make them all the same level of price and match market. Actually, we're way under market right now, but we're lining those up. Going to the next page for golf, we're changing a couple of items at golf. We're doing the annual club guest pass individual. This is for outside players. They can join now. Instead of paying $2,200, we're raising it to $2,310. And we're adding a new annual family club guest pass for $4,100 for outside players. The daily fees for guests are also going up from $40 to $44 if you're doing an 18-hole walk, and from $54 to $58 if you do an 18-hole ride. And then for 9 holes for the walk, we're going from $30 to $33, and for the ride, we're going from $40 to $43. And again, these are mainly to be in line with the market prices out there. We're still a little under market, but we're still in line with where we need to be. Daily fees for guests of members is going for the 18-hole walk is going from $32 to $34, and for 18-hole ride would go from $43 to $45. And then for 9-hole walk would go from $22 to $23, and 9-hole ride would go from $27 to $28. Next slide. And then for pools, we're increasing the amount for short-term guest passes. If you buy a 10-visit pass, it's going from $50 to $60, and for a 20-visit pass, it's going from $70 to $80. And then the 30-visit pass was going from $75 to $85. For fitness center, we're increasing the annual membership for an individual from $150 to $160. Annual couple, which is annual individual plus one, is $180, going up to $200. And then for annual family, we're going from $240 to $280. And finally, on the last slide, at the campground, We're raising the annual campground fee from $1,440 to $1,500. The weekly RV charge from $300 to $225, and the daily RV charges from $43 to $50. The daily tent is going from $27 to $35. The campground A storage area, which does not have any electric, is going up from $500 to $600 as the as dry sale is and the RV storage is. And finally, pickleball tennis, the guest pack multi-pack, guest play multi-pack is going from $50 to $60 for a 10 visit pass. For the 20 visit pass, we're going from $70 to $80. And then for the 30 visit pass, it's from $75 to $85. So those are the fee changes this year. So, all right, and I'll turn it over to Phil.
Okay, this is the end. You've been very patient. Just have a couple more slides and then we'll be ready for questions. So budget preparation, when we put together a budget this big, it takes a lot of effort by our various managers to do so, but you can see all the elements that go into it. And one of the important things, of course, is the board guidance and direction that they give us. And if they ask for something to be in the budget, we build it in, and so that you can see it ahead of time. So we do look at the actual revenue expenditures for the last 3 years. We look at board goals and guidance. We call around, we call RSA, we call utilities. We try to get a sense from the vendors what's changing this year. So we don't want to have any surprises. We try to build them into the budget. We look at operations center changes. Is something going to change about the way that they're operating their amenity, and we need to factor that in. We need to look at inflation and what's going on in general with the market. As I've mentioned, in the last couple of years, we've had quite a bit of inflation built in. So this year we only built in 3%, but it's on top of all the increases that we had in the last 2 years. And we look at the local economy, what's going to go on in the local economy. That all factors in. It gets a thorough review by the joint finance and planning committees. Do we have any finance committee members here today? Any hands up? Maybe some on Zoom. They've done a yeoman's job, as has the planning committee. Any planning committee members here? They must be on Zoom tonight, or that they've done quite a bit on the front end on your behalf, asking questions about why we put in what we did. What's the rationale? Okay, let's talk about board amendments. There are board amendments that we already know about, and board amendments. The next board meeting is tomorrow, but tomorrow is to discuss when it comes to votes. Those will take place at the February 3rd meeting. That's a Saturday meeting. And that's where all the amendments will get dealt with on the budget. That's where essentially everything that's going to change changes by February 3rd. And then February 21st is when we adopt the budget resolution. And that's more to give us time to make sure we've counted everything, we understand the impact of the amendments, and the board adopts the budget resolution and sets the assessment. So considered on February 3rd, you see that there on the next slide, please. And so possible amendments that could affect the assessment are an increase in boat fees for higher horsepower watercraft. That's in the mix. And you can hear about that tomorrow, or you can look on the board. You can look on the website and look at the board packet for tomorrow. An increase in annual fire and rescue donation by $4,000. We already give $42,000. This would add $4,000 more. And we love our fire and rescue company, and we want to make sure we support them. That's one of the amendments. There's one to eliminate the loyalty point program, the points when you're at the restaurants that you get. There is an administrative cost to that, and the thought is eliminating that might be a cost saver. And there was one to eliminate restaurant discounts program, not counting the normal discounts that employees get that work at the restaurants. It's pretty typical that if you work at a restaurant, you get a meal or you get a discount on a meal. So it wouldn't be those, but again, to try to help cut down the expenses of restaurants. So those are the amendments we have in hand, and those would be talked about tomorrow at the board meeting and voted on on February 3rd. There's still time for other board amendments to come in. We've set a deadline of this Friday for board amendments to come in, so we have time to calculate them and make sure that members know about them for the February 3rd meeting. Last slide, I promise. Additional opportunities for input. We have the board meeting tomorrow, January 17. We have the February 3rd board meeting. Here's the email. If you send this to, you send an email to gmoffice@loa.org. Carolyn and I see that. And emails to the board@loa.org. We'll make sure that we share your message when those come in. We usually share and discuss. And we believe this is a responsible spending plan. We believe it follows the board's vision. And now is your opportunity to make comments or ask questions. We ask that you give your lot and section number. And as I said earlier, ask that you follow good decorum. And so we've got the microphone over there. And so make sure that we can hear you we'll take say 3, and then we'll go to Zoom and see if there are any questions there. And then we'll sort of go back and forth. It's okay if you want to ask a follow-up question, but if you have several questions, I ask that you give others a chance, and then so get back in line and ask there. So who would like to step to the microphone first? That's where come on up to the microphone, get in line over here. And the first one, you can line up if you like, if that's a better way of doing it. Okay, we're ready for your questions. Let's make sure you're on the mic. Hang on just a sec.
My name's Gary Weber, Section 6, Lot 65. I only have one concern about the fee schedule, and of course, it's the dock. And why? Because it isn't a fee. It's an assessment. Everything else in the fee schedule, now this would never happen, but everybody could choose to not put a boat in the water, not eat, not golf, not anything. They pay nothing. Every dock is in, it's staying in, and we're not going to pull it out. And yes, we gave up our riparian rights when we bought the property, but when you granted us the ability to buy a dock and we paid to have it inspected and installed, the riprap, that was a contract that we've had for 50 years or 37 years in our case. So if you want to put a new law in, says every new dock pays a fee a year, that's fine. But we don't have a choice. Unlike those fees that you may get, every one of us is going to pay $100 and you're going to get $75,000. So you have now created 2 rates of assessment. Those with a dock and everybody else who doesn't, which I believe is against the Virginia law for homeowners associations. Now, yes, you can go through the fine points, but we're owners in this. Now, I did pricing for 40 years. This is an unbalanced budget from pricing standpoint. Certain things feed and support another. That's what I mean by unbalanced. The golf course loses a lot of money. We pay for the greens. We pay other areas. That's all part of it. I'm not against the $100. I'm against how you applied it. You could add $100 to the boats, and then I can choose. Do I put my boat in? Do I sell it? I'm not pulling out an $8,000 dock for a $100 fee. And I can't one year say, hey, I don't want to use the dock. So I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to use it. And I have rights to go on the water. You've given us those rights. I have a right to tie up a boat because I'm paying you a fee to put the boat in. That dock has been okayed and approved by your policies, and the riparian rights, while waived, you gave them back. That's my comment.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Next, please.
My name is Gary McFadden. I live in Section 4, Lot 63, 108 Lee Circle. General Manager and Lake of the Woods board members, thank you. I rise to speak against the $100 annual dock assessment. This particular idea was not identified in the November 19, 2023 budget package from Phil Rodenberg to the board. As such, it has the optics of a novel, late inning attempt to create an easy revenue stream, albeit in a way that is divisive, regressive, damaging to both your official and business and professional standings in the community. And if survey comments are to be believed, introduces the potential for costly, unnecessary litigation. A cursory review of the November 19 budget package reveals significant increases in additional spending over last year. Additional salaries for employees, which the budget identifies as non-essential, represent a 16% increase over last year. That is equivalent to some $384,000. This does not include another perhaps $77,000 in nominal costs for fringe and other benefits, bringing the total cost for new employees to over $460,000. In parallel, increases in contractual services, which vary from 14% to 175% over last year's allocations, represent an additional $199,000 to the budget. This creates the overall negative perception, at least personally, that the Lake of the Woods is adding more people, whilst at the same time, they are contracting out more of the work, with the net result that Lake of the Woods property owners are being asked to foot the bill for over $659,000 in new spending. The board has a fiduciary obligation to its constituents to exercise cost restraint and make balanced spending choices. Just like in our personal lives, we cannot always afford everything we want. Please do not regard low property owners as a piggy bank. If the board would curb its appetite for the aforementioned spending increases by even only 10%, this would negate and make moot the need for the proposed $73,600 dock fees altogether. With respect now to the dock proposal itself, this very proposal has the unintended financially divisive effect of pitting property owners who do not have docks against those that do. Will property owners next be assessed based on the amount of lakefront property they own? Will the board next consider assessing all lakefront property regardless of dock size or lake footprint, or even whether or not they have a dock? How will docks that adjoin the lake but do not cast a footprint over the lake be assessed? I find it disappointing that a few board members have privately made wooden and perfunctory remarks about the privilege of dock ownership, or that the board's absolute authority to force property owners to support new assessments through fiat. Has the board considered if the cost impacts outweigh the financial benefits if, as some survey comments suggest, multiple lawsuits are spawned? I also find it disturbing that property owners have been allocated a de minimis window of time to offer feedback on this proposal. Thus far, over 190 constituents have spoken through surveys. That's over twice the number of people that I think are in attendance here tonight. As evidenced by the survey results, over 98% of the respondents are opposed to your widely unpopular idea. In a recent letter, I provided all of you with the ability to view comments which your constituents included in the poll conducted concerning the dock question. Under your captaincy, we are counting on you to listen and to not only put an end to the idea of assessing dock owners a $100 annual fee, but also to take steps to reduce the cost burdens on all Lake of the Woods property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Forrest J. Fox. I live on section 13, lot 138. I'm here today to ask a couple questions, basically from a legal side. One of the things I'm asking, you're asking for a dock fee. I would like to know what LOWA's definition of a dock is. The reason I'm asking this is because the LOWA regulations do not use the word dock in any of their any of their regulations. What they talk about is private boat slips, piers, and boat shelters. And nowhere is there a dock. So how are you assessing a dock fee if there are no docks in Lake of the Woods?
A great question. The answer is it would be the piers, not the slips.
No, wait a minute. So piers are going to be assessed
That's
and
right.
slips not.
There's
No,
only one
these are
slip.
private boat slips. The regulations
Private.
say private boat slips. So if you have a private boat slip, it's going to be exempt or not.
There's only one that we know of.
Okay, when you go into there, they describe what a boat slip is. That's a three-sided thing that comes off of the bulkheads. So I think you need to go ahead and take a look at that before you go ahead and you say that you're going to assess docks. Define what a dock is, and is the dock the side of the bulkhead and does not extend beyond that, or is a dock based on the bulkhead and extends over the water? And if it exceeds over the water, is it only considered a dock then if it has a piling that supports the portion that going over? I know that because I came here, I have a 3-foot wide dock that goes ahead and extends over the water. Because in Keaton's Lake, as we've all seen, anybody that lives on Keaton Lake right now and seen the waters drop, you look down off of the bulkhead and you see nothing but rock. The reason most people on Lake Keaton put in a dock or a pier or something is so they have something to put their boat against so they can get onto their boat without crushing their boat onto the rocks below. That's why the majority of them are there. Not because we want a big elaborate dock. We are limited to 90 square feet of dock or pier or slip or covered boat shelter. On the large lake, it's 600 square feet. Huge difference there.
Mhm.
I understand there's a huge difference in size of the lakes, but when you're talking about, we're going to share all this equally. If you want to go ahead and assess us all $100, which will probably happen, I'd like to see that not happen, but then you ought to give the people on the Keaton Lake the ability to have larger docks if they're going to pay the same amount of money as anybody else.
Right. Points well made, sir. Anything else?
Just one other thing, one of the things I read in here, and I've gotten some feedback from the letters that I've sent to the board, is that all of the piers, docks, whatever you want to call them, we have a revocable license from ECC. I haven't seen anywhere where there's a definition of what constitutes a revocable position to have our license taken away. Because one of the things I'm looking at is, according to the regulations, ECC is supposed to do an annual inspection of each and every pier, slip, and sheltered boat. I'd like to see the 2023 completed survey of every one of the slips. I mean, every one of the docks or slips in Lake of the Woods. I can guarantee you that is not available. And that's the thing. If they're going to say that that is the only reason that you can go ahead and have a slip taken away is because you haven't maintained it. Now, what was told to me is we're going to use that. If you don't pay for your slip, we are going to revert the license on your pier and you'll have to dismantle it. I think we may have a little bit of an issue out here with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name's Al Arnold. I live at Section 7, Lot 220. I've just got some questions I'd like answers, simple questions. I assume this budget that's being discussed does not yet consider any of the referendum items that are
That's
not yet in
correct. Yeah,
effect?
the referendum items would be separate to that, and we can't,
And
bank
would
on them.
that then, if they're approved or not, in, I guess, May's the date, would they then only become effective the following year?
they would
Because they
be,
affect fees and therefore, yeah.
right, they would, I understand what you're asking. So if the referendum is successful, it would be completed in the August, September timeframe. And so at that point, they would go into effect. And so there would be a windfall for this budget, but we don't believe we should count on that passing.
Okay. So it's not.
You can't budget for something that takes a member
A
approval.
membership vote that has not
Right,
yet
right.
occurred.
So those would go into effect when they get recorded in the courthouse.
If and when they get it, okay.
Right.
Just want to understand the semantics.
But no, we're not counting on the referendum
So
items.
forth, yeah. And to that extent, right now, there's a certain amount of fees collected for Airbnb guests. That's one of the referendum items. If that passes and there's no more Airbnb rentals, then there'll be no associated fees that come in.
Right. Part of our tenant fee does include the short-term tenants. Right.
Right, but they may go away, depending on the results of the referendum.
That's right. We wouldn't have that stream for the short-term tenants anymore. It'd only be the ones more than 30 days is how it's worded.
So there is assumptions in the budget of certain short-term fees that would continue to come in.
Right now,
May
it
or may
is, yeah.
not change depending on the referendum.
Charlie, can you recall approximately how much money we're talking about for the short-term tenants? We can look at it. But point well made on that. There would be a certain amount.
And I'm just curious what, yeah, she's about. to
About
say.
$12,000 that we wouldn't collect.
Roughly, okay. And the other thing, I haven't heard, there's a lot of projects talked about, but this year with the damages or whatever, sustained damages at, I don't know if that's a word, at Keaton Lake, the dam needs to be repaired.
Mhm.
There's cost of that. Is that coming out of, is that in the budget someplace,
That's a
whatever
great
that's-
question. We're taking that from the repair and replacement reserve. And so it could possibly have an impact on next year's budget, depending on what gets spent and what doesn't get spent in the repair and replacement project list for this year. But we're doing that using the fund balance of the repair and replacement reserve.
All right, that's all I had. Thanks.
All right, good questions. Thank you, Al. All right, who's next? Yes, sir.
Hey, sir, Simon Gray, from 0554 2801 Lakeview. Plain and simple, I object to the boat fee. We were asked to talk about it and everything else like that. I already pay over $500 to put my boat in the Wonderful Lake. Okay, that's a lot of money already just to put the boat out on the lake. Well, actually, I pay more than that. What I'm also confused about is we have the CARC project where everybody had to pay for the sports, for the pool and fitness center.
Mhm.
Some people don't use it. Got it, understood. Golf course projects. We see a whole bunch of golf course beautification projects. I suspect a large majority of people here don't pay for it. You told me $100. I did the math very quickly. I think you said $76,000. If I divide that by every lot, that's $18 per lot. So why am I having to pay $100 for that piece that's in there? Lake priorities. I think you just said it was lake priorities. I'd like to know what it is. I don't think the lake lower can manage the lakes themselves as it is. We've got silt problems all over the place. I paid $3,000 to buy myself a pump and spent a week in the lake myself, pumping out the stuff that you guys couldn't get out of there because the equipment you bought previously doesn't work. It was literally a week of my life that I spent sucking up crap out of the lake. Okay, so basically I object to the boat fee as is written. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Right. Well, we'll take one more and then we'll go to Zoom and take 2 or 3 off of Zoom, but yes,
Sharon
ma'am.
Broadus, Section 13, Lot 208. My first question is, how can you justify the RV storage fee going from $450 to $600 when there's nothing happening? There's no maintenance, there's nothing to maintain except a gate. but it goes up $150.
It's mainly driven by the market. Charlie mentioned earlier that, that we see that a comparable parking area would be much higher. And so we look at the market when we're providing this.
$150 in 1 year.
Yes.
That's hard to justify. My comment about the dock fees. We've heard the lakes are our most important amenity, and unfortunately, they come with a cost to maintain. It might help if we could retain a staff member for a longer period of time to see through the issues that develop and need to be addressed. This feels like the board tried to find a quick loophole to charge a specific group of people for an amenity that benefits everyone. Are our docks costing you money? Are they preventing you from performing maintenance on the lake? Are they an eyesore? No, they just happen to have a few poles in the lake, so that makes them fair game. Everyone can swim in our lake, unless there's a toxic algae bloom like there has been for much of the last 2 summers and holidays. Everyone can put a boat in our lake, unless it's been drained. When we write the board with our opinions, we don't want to hear, most of the board members live on the big lake and they're happy to pay the fee. That's insulting. Those of us on the small lake should not even be charged for our boats this year, since we have no way of knowing when the lake will even fill back up so that we can get them out of the mud, or whether we'll be discouraged from using them because of the condition of the water. We've not heard if this is going to really be a one-time fee, or is it just going to go up every year? I know I don't always agree with the decision the board makes, and I truly appreciate the amount of time and talents they give to our community. But this decision is one that feels random and not well thought out. If money needs to be raised, it should be raised by everyone. We all support other amenities. Why is this so different?
Thank you, ma'am. Sue, do we have someone on Zoom that, can you open the mic for him? Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Bob Fritz. I'm in section 8, lot 184. Hey, thanks for all this information. I had a quick question about equipment that's being replaced. I noticed a lot of equipment is being replaced. It's old, it's broken, or something's wrong with it. Do we ever recoup any costs for the equipment that is replaced? What happens to it? Where does it go? Is there a market for that?
Bob, that's a great question. And when we replace a piece of equipment, whether it be a vehicle or equipment, we look to see if we can continue to get some life out of it. But if it looks like the maintenance costs are starting to mount up, we'll try to sell it. And we do sometimes we're able to sell vehicles or equipment at an auction. We have an auction every year. And if we are able to do that, we're able to get funds for whatever that vehicle or piece of equipment is. It goes back into the repair and replacement reserve. So I'm glad you asked that question, because that shows that we try to put it back in and keep it working for the members. Well, I want to ask down the line, would anybody add anything to that? Okay. Yeah, in general, the funds go back to reserve.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for your question. All right, who else is on Zoom that'd like to ask a question or make a comment? Go ahead and say your name.
Hi,
And
I have a question. This is Dr. Gloria. It's regarding the budget. I'm new here and I'm a senior citizen. Now I want to know, for the fees for the fitness center, you guys sent us information that we were going to be getting a credit. Did you include that credit in the budget? That's my question. Thank you.
great question. Thank you for your question. That was not included because it was for October and November in the current year. And so the credit was for that. You could, I suppose, if you haven't spent that credit yet, you could apply it to next year. So in a sense, it's on your side to help pay. And it looks like Carolyn wanted to make a comment.
Yes, just to add to that, it is on your statement. If you go onto LOA.org, if you are a fitness center member, you will see it on your statement, and that will be reflected as a credit on your personal statement when you get your assessment. So it doesn't impact the budget.
Thank you for asking. Who's next? Do we have someone else on Zoom? Go ahead. One more time, could you say, if your mic's open, go ahead and ask a question from Zoom.
Ask.
Say one more time. We can, we can barely hear you. Say again, please. What? Just think if we had had icy roads, we'd all been on Zoom tonight. Everybody be careful going home. There might be a little more refreezing. Okay, we'll come back to you. We're gonna go to the gentleman here in line. Yes, sir.
Okay, TC Phillips, section 8, is 68, lot 68. So again, I'm against the dock fee.
Okay.
And I really would like to understand the rationale for it in the first place. Can someone provide me a rationale for the dock fee?
I will do my best to do that. All right. In the association, the lake is wholly owned by the association. That's compared to, did you know that you have an easement over the roads and in the parks? You have an easement over the parks and the roads. So that means that when you have a guest that comes in, your guest is able to go over to the roads to your house. You have an easement. Members don't have an easement over the lakes. The lake is wholly owned by the association. And so the thought is that the docks are on the lake. They're on common area, and there ought to be an annual charge to offset help us offset the costs, the growing costs of the lake's amenities.
So the rationale is because you need money.
That is correct. Yes.
But so if that's the rationale, and there's all the people that are running boats on the lake, who's going to help me fix my seawall because of all the water that's running over it? Other people have had the same thing, damages where they had to fix it or fix their dock. Who's going to help me pay for that? You're asking me to pay $100, but it really makes no sense to me. I mean, if it's a money issue, then raise the assessment and raise it against everybody, because you can raise it $30 and still make I can't do math in public, but I mean, $30 on everybody, and then it's not a fee, right? It's an assessment. If you need the money, that's what you need to do. There's two things you need to do: either cut your budget or raise the assessment. And that's I had another question on the budget too, because when I look at the budget, and I have a little bit of background both in business and the military, and I see nothing in there about a manpower study. Is there some people that can go from one place to another? Has there been a manpower study on how many people really need, or some type of salary study?
We are doing a salary study.
No, I'm
for-
asking, has there been one done for this budget? All I
is
see you
going to
doing is
have one
adding
done.
people. You're not looking at reducing your manpower.
Mhm.
You're not looking at reducing anything else. Do you
Well-
have full-time people working at the club?
We have some at the clubhouse. Yes, the chef.
But they're only working 3 days a week, 4 days a week. My
It's
point
open
is,
for,
if we're
Wednesday
looking
to
at this,
Sunday.
we need to
They're
look at
not,
the
they're
whole,
open 5 days a week.
they're all working 5 days a week, but the club's not open.
And Fairways is open 7 days a week, and our clubhouse manager oversees.
Those are two different entities, right? At the club, you're charging 18%
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you're not doing that at the Fairways. So there's no consistency. Alls I'm seeing is that there's a lot of inconsistencies, both in the budget, and in the process, the way you're trying to make it work. And to me, I think you need to go back to the basics and look at what does it cost to run this place? Because based on when I looked at the study, you're going to be 100% grown out here in a couple of years. That should be that's a steady state budget, right? You got to figure out that's a steady state, because you're not going to have income from new houses or road fees unless you keep on raising those on new builds or when you transfer, when someone sells a
Mhm.
house. To me, it's a pure assessment. We need to figure out what it costs to run this organization, and it's going to be a fixed state, not very long. I mean, nothing changes. What's changed at the golf course in 10 years? I've been here since 2004.
What's changed at the golf course? We have a new irrigation system. that
What's
came in,
changed
and
at the clubhouse?
We've added the members lounge, and we've increased the size of the deck. There've been projects along the way.
I'm talking about the budget itself when it comes to manpower, labor, and I always know there's going to be capital improvements. I understand that. I know you need to raise that money, but I'm talking about the basics of a budget.
Right.
And I'm not seeing that in your budget.
Well, let me help try to explain a little bit of that for the benefit of everybody. So first of all, each association decides for itself, is it going to have everything on the assessment or are they going to have fees associated with it? So it's really up to the board to decide what that mix of assessment and fees are. And some members are more about fees and some members are more about assessment, but we hate to see the base assessment go up. So that's a dynamic that you've got to look at. Now, whether we contract out or whether we provide staff or whether we reduce staff is a conversation going on all the time. And
Yeah, but I
it seems to me, well, if I could,
okay,
I'll
that's
give
fair,
you
that's
time to
fair.
come back, whether we can get by with less staff. And that's one thing I've noticed in the time I've been here is the demand is growing for more. And it's your fellow members want more from us. They expect more hours. They expect, and we try to have
But that's
efficiency.
no different in any business, Phil.
That's right.
That's no different in
And-
any
and so-
business.
and
And
so where do we
business
get
people
efficient-
sometimes have to cut their staff because they can't make their payroll, right?
Right.
So all
So
I'm
where do we-
saying is that being looked at? And
Yes.
I'm not sure it is.
Well, and in my budget letter, if you go onto the website, and I'll be publishing my budget letter again, you can see where we talk about, we talk about cost reductions and energy conservation. That's one area. But when it comes to staff, we look at whether we can provide what we can with what we have. But in recent years, we've added, for example, we added to the roads crew. We hadn't added anybody to the roads
Well,
crew.
and that's another thing that's not really detailed in your budget. In most budgets, you'll see what the actual salaries are. I don't see any of that in that budget. I can't tell what is really new cost or
Mhm.
its increase in salary.
Right.
And from what you were saying earlier, it's almost all salary increase.
A
A
lot
lot
of
of the
it- a lot of it
increases are
is.
salary and benefits.
Yeah.
So that's a fixed cost, right?
Right. So on page 4 of the budget letter, that's where we talk about cost reductions and energy conservation. One thing we tried to take advantage of is the new fiber network that FiberLink is bringing to us. And we'll be switching over from Comcast and we'll be saving $63,000 in doing so. And that'll show up in the 101 budget, the administrative budget. Also, we're putting in programmable thermostats in the clubhouse and Wood Center to achieve some more savings. And we did count that in the budget as well. The clubhouse budget reflects a $1,500 electricity savings, and Fairways reflects a $500 one. We hope more will come. When we switch to stamps.com from the postage system we have now, we were able to reduce the assessment related to mailing, the assessment mailing by 13,000. So we try to make these changes as we go along. For example, security, a contract cost that's high. We paid somebody to sit at the front and check people in all night. And we switched to technology. So technology is a way that we can try to overcome this. For example, at the front desk, instead of having additional staff, we can provide a way for you to pay online. We try to build in technologies.
No, I understand all those issues. I guess my bottom line in all this is my biggest issue was the dock fee, the $100, right?
Understood.
And the only thing I don't think anybody has a problem with $100. I think people had a problem with the way it was characterized or how it was actually laid out there. I mean, I don't think anybody has a problem paying another $100 if that's what the assessment needs to go up to pay for the budget. But I think it's bad medicine on the
Point well made, and we thank you for your comments and yes, sir.
Dan Cronin, Section 3, Lot 98. My first question would be towards restrictive covenants. Do you have to have a referendum to change the restrictive covenants?
Do we have to have a referendum to?
A referendum vote to change restrictive covenants?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Well, reading right here, where I was granted the ability to build a dock on my lot, be it by permit or license, nowhere in there does it address any type of fee structure. So there is no program for that. That was from over 50 years ago. You all this year have decided to now all of a sudden put in a fee structure, which now takes away from making it a restrictive covenant. You are now turning it into a pay for play, which rescinds my right in the restrictive covenants without a vote to do that. And also, I have to say, the short term that was given on this, where it couldn't be discussed or debated among the members, it seems to me like it's already a fait accompli. And then I go back and look at articles of incorporation, one class of membership, bylaws, Article 3, one class of membership. Y'all are devising two classes now, lakefront owners and everybody else. And to me, that's not right. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. If I could, just some, as a reference, the Declaration of Restrictions is on our website. You can go to it and take a look. The section that you want to look at and is, I believe it's section, does somebody have it handy? There is a section that talks about the ownership of the lakes and the other amenities, and it says it can be on the terms and conditions set by the board. And so that is the basis for how the board can set this dock fee. It's on the terms and conditions set by the board, and it is.
Well, I'd like to get
You have the
that,
reference.
location.
I'm going to say the number. I want to say it's section 11, but if somebody could look it up for me, I would appreciate it. So we'll get you that reference before we leave today. I believe it's section 11B. All right. If I'm wrong, what will I do for y'all? Get you a Snicker bar or something? I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I don't know.
Ready?
All right, we're ready for you, sir. What is your name, please?
It's Bill Fraser. In
Bill.
section 4, 138. I know you guys are getting beat up here today, so let me just say something positive first. I think that a 5% increase in our annual fee assessment is quite reasonable compared to the inflation I'm experiencing in many other areas of my life. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Where I have a problem, as where many people have spoken today, is about the dock fees. You know, it seems to me sometime between November, when the initial budget proposal was put out for us to look at, and today, or actually a few days ago, somebody on the board must have said, gee, what could we do to really piss off everybody who lives on the lake? You know, it just came out of nowhere. And it seems like, as so many people have already said already, it's an assessment targeting lake owners. You know, differentiating lake owners from, you know, what is this, divide and conquer here? I don't want to repeat what everybody else has already said. I did a little math on my own with 4,261 members, billable accounts on the lake. It would cost about $17.50 to add to the assessment to fix this problem of $76,000. And I would bet you, just my guess is, if that wasn't here, half these people wouldn't be here today because we're all pissed off about the dock fees, and that's why we're here. If you were just telling us you were going to raise it instead of $110, you're going to raise it $127.50. So what? 5.5% inflation compared to what I'm dealing with elsewhere. So the dock fees got to go. If you need the money, find it somewhere else, but don't do that. Because that's what, pretty soon we're going to start, oh, you know, you're fishing on the lake? Well, we're going to set a fishing fee now. You want to fish on a lake? Oh, you're water skiers? We're going to have a water ski fee too, you know? So let's just not go there, okay? Okay, done with that. Let's move on to a couple other things. What do you consider high horsepower? You're saying you're going to raise the fees for the boats for the what is high horsepower?
Do you remember what the proposal, what level horsepower it is? So in our fee schedule, you can see it all.
I
laid
know
out.
what the fee schedule is now. It's
And
not
I
cheap.
believe, Rick, do you remember what is it above 250? I have my board packet here. Can I come back to that question? Well.
Yeah, okay. While we're on that, I'll talk about my other issue, and that is the getting rid of the VRBO Airbnb. When I was considering buying the house here in the lake a year and a half ago, that was one of the selling features to me, is that possibly if I needed to or wanted to, I could rent out the house for a week or something like that if I was out of the town or traveling. And I have no intention of doing it, but it's just possible it's there. It was a selling feature. I imagine the reason you're trying to get rid of VRBO and Airbnb is there must be complaints, there must be issues, must be problems with it. And I would say, fine, let's address those. Let's not ban it. Because I think it would affect property values, quite honestly, resale values, with what's happening with Airbnb and VRBOs. So that's really my two key points.
All right, thanks for that comment. And since it does affect the assessment somewhat because there's some money associated with short-term tenants, why don't I address that? Have we been able to work with the property owners to deal with some of the complaints we have? And I would say if we have complaints on a short-term tenant, we do try to talk to the member and explain to them what the issue is, whether it's parking on the street or noise after hours, et cetera. I think really the basis for wanting to say there can be no term for less than 30 days is to get at that while in Virginia, the Supreme Court has said that's a residential use, it does feel like it's a business use. And if we really are serious about that, we have to make a change in our documents to say it is or it's not allowed. So it does take a vote of the membership to say that kind of short-term tenancy is allowed or not. Were you able to find? Can you go ahead and say it? And Carolyn, were you able to find? Was it section 11B? Okay, we'll catch back up on our homework here. All right, go ahead, Charlie, on the horsepower, the amendment we have.
Yeah, we have an amendment proposing 251 horsepower and higher would be the ones.
And what would be the increase?
It varies based on,
varies based
as you
on
get
that.
higher horsepower, it gets higher.
So back when we had the wake boat study, one of the thoughts was that the proposal was, or the recommendation that was made by the consultant was look at the horsepower, the level of horsepower, and possibly restrict those or do something to discourage high horsepower. I think that's where that's coming from. All right, now where in the declaration was it?
So in the Declaration of Restrictions, also known as the restrictive covenants, it's section 11B. And the key language that you're looking for is the ownership of the recreational amenities within the section and subdivision, which may include but shall not be limited to lakes, dams, marinas, beaches, lake access tracks, golf courses, tennis courts, swimming pools, clubhouses, and adjacent clubhouse grounds and campgrounds shall be in declarant or its successors or assigns, and the use and enjoyment thereof shall be on such terms and conditions as declarant, its successors or assigns shall from time to time license. So declarant is the Lake of the Woods.
Well, declarant was before us, but we're the successors. We're the
Yes, correct.
successors of the declarant, and it's the terms and conditions. Is that the?
Yeah, and it says as such terms shall be on such terms and conditions.
Right. That's the key phrase. That's where it
Yeah.
comes from. So 11B in the declaration is what the basis for that is. Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Good evening. Hi, Phil.
Hi.
Everybody. I'm Casey Hollis, section 13, lot 147. I've been in Lake of the Woods since I was 2 years old. This is an aging community and I am too. I've been here for the whole run of it. And I grew up on Keaton's Lake. I swam in it all day, every day, joyously. Over the years with my family being in here, we've owned over 13 homes on the main lake, on the golf course, on the little lake. We've had clean lakes and a beautiful community, and I'm extremely proud of it. I also want to give a compliment. Some of the things that I see in the budget, I'm very excited about finding out that we are going to invest in salaries to retain good employees, that we're going to continue to improve and grow as a community. We do need to update things. I completely support a lot of the statements from my neighbors tonight about the assessment going up being totally appropriate with inflation, and that needs to happen. I want to add that I served for a year on the M&E committee, Maintenance and Ecology, when Keaton's Lake became toxic and I could no longer swim. It became a big issue for me and I was very concerned. I wanted to participate. I wanted to volunteer my time. And I found that we didn't make a lot of headway. The budget has always been an issue in this neighborhood because we continue to have costs because we are an old neighborhood and things will cost us money. At the same time, I think it's extremely important to underscore that this is a scary precedent that we're going to move from having fees for amenities and for luxuries to having fees for structures on your property. Now, the neighborhood, I don't think I'm going to win a legal battle reading all the covenants. I've read them many times. I don't think I'm going to win that battle. They will make sure the verbiage is correct so that they can push this through if they want. But I want to warn the neighbors who are not dock owners that this is step one to the neighborhood being allowed to establish fees for things that are already on your property, which you didn't have to pay for 50+ years before. Perhaps this will be sheds in the future. Perhaps this will be circular driveways that have 2 entrances onto the road that cause more wear and tear. Perhaps this will be a pet fee. This does not just affect people owning docks. This sets a precedent that our board can start assessing fees for things you already own and you can't get rid of. This is something I think everyone should take very seriously. And I'm really disappointed in my friends who are on the various boards and committees for how this got pushed through and the assumption that this was a great idea without discussing it with their neighbors. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Casey. One resource that I wanted to mention to you is last year, the board put together an ad hoc finance group. This goes back to some of the comments that TC made earlier. Are we looking at what should we be doing in the future? That committee looked at several different ways the association can find revenue. And this was a recommendation of that group. So there were discussions at the board level to put that ad hoc committee together. It went out and did its work. It had open meetings and it came back and gave a report to the board about what it recommended. And that it was one of them. Dock fee was one of them. Another one was an item that's on the referendum, and that's the capital contribution, which is a way that large communities like ours helps fund itself. It's in a sense a buy-in to the community that you all wouldn't pay because you're already here, but new members would buy in. So that's something that we're looking at in the referendum. But I wanted to let you know about the ad hoc finance group. I can't remember the full name of it, but it's looking at the financial needs of the future, and you can find that on our LOA.org site as well. And that group's report is out there. Okay. Do we have? We'll ask you to come up and make your comments, and then we'll check back on Zoom. So yes, ma'am.
Betty Eisenman, Section 8, something 888. I'm also here about the dock fees, and I have a memorandum that was sent to me from you to the board, from you, Phil, to the board. And it was discussing adding a dock fee to the fee schedule. It says the board of directors would like to consider adding a dock fee to the fee schedule. In 2 places, it states that the additional $71,700 will reduce the assessment by $16.83. In a further chain of notes from the ad hoc committee that is looking to find money, it switched it to $17.80. It is an assessment. It is not a fee. It's an assessment. And to put that on now, like Casey said, sets a dangerous precedent. For $17.80, and I also believe that the assessment basically should go up a couple $100 a year. You guys have been playing behind the 8 ball for a long time. and trying to catch up and find money in different places. And I know you're panicking because all the bills are going away, so you have no money there. And wait, I got all my notes. Basically, like what the gentleman said before, we're just fish in a barrel because there's nothing we can do about removing our dock. So it's an assessment. And I also was told by a board member that it's just $100. What's the big deal? And in this note, in these notes that were in your memorandum, but the notes are from the ad hoc committee, it does say, I don't know why we're here, because it says that they're all just about in agreement on setting this fee. So it feels like, why are we bothering to be here? Are you guys really listening? But it is an assessment. It's not a fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. All right, why don't we check on Zoom to see if we have some other callers that want to participate? Can we open the mic for the first caller on Zoom? Can you give us your name, lot, and section, please?
Hi, this is Daniel Schwartz. I'm in Section 8, Lot 65.
Hi, Daniel. We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah, I'm also opposed to the dock fee. We purchased a lake property, which initially cost us more money. That property included the dock. It's on my plat. The rationale that I understand that the lake is wholly owned by the association. The association then therefore, when there's damage to my dock and my seawall, is the association going to be responsible for that?
If that's a question, you're responsible for your own dock.
Right, but it's the association now allowing boats on the lake, which is causing damage to my dock and my seawall. I've never looked at it this way before, but then again, I've never been assessed, to have a structure on my property. And, this year it's $100. What's it going to be next year? What else is the board going to decide that they want to, assess on our property and charge us additional fees? So that's my comment. I'm opposed to this.
All right, thank you, Daniel. We appreciate your comments. Next caller on Zoom, say your name and lot and section, please.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Slagle. I'm in Section 7, Lot 226. I wanted to just say that I do not live on the lake, but I am highly opposed to the fee that is being assessed to the dock owners. For all of the reasons that have already been given, I just think that this really sets a bad precedent, and I can see it as a non-dock owner. The other, I would just like to say, I've heard about the assessment going up. No, I'm sorry, not the assessment, but the fee for the RV storage area, going from $450, I believe, up to $600, or it's either $500 to $600, and that it is below market value or market assessment or something like that. And even though that may be the case, these are the kinds of things that get people to come here and get people to stay here. So even though we may not be with the Fawn Lakes or the whatevers you may want to hear, I think these are the kinds of things that the board really needs to look at, especially that much of an increase from one year to the next. I believe it's wrong. And this is why you're getting so much flack from others here tonight.
Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate your feedback. All right, how about one more from Zoom? You have another? Go ahead, lot and section and name, please. Go ahead. Go ahead and
Okay,
speak.
can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hey, this is Mike Bolzano. I have section 60, 61, lot 60, 61, and 62.
Section 8.
In section 8. Now I've got 3 docks, so-called docks. Well, one of them cannot be used anymore because of all the silt that has been coming in from the drains. And my dock now is over land instead of water. I can't add too much more than what has been said. by most of the members here. But what I'm seeing here is a very basic problem. All families have it, all organizations have it, all governments have it, okay? The basic problem is expenditures are exceeding income. Now, I know I'm not the general manager of this place, but I have been a manager of a major corporation and a major government agency. And the way we've handled it is we brought in everybody, all of these program managers and said, look, we need to find 6% to reduce. Okay, so you guys come in, tell me where you want to make the cut. And you will be amazed how many people will find a way to make that cut. But I'm not talking about now just the docks. I'm talking about the real problem of managing this major wonderful place we live in. And that is expenditure over income. And unless that's addressed, we're going to have the same problem again. Again, the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that we have been blessed with a road fee, construction fee that has been money over and above the assessments, okay? But it is inconceivable to me that someone didn't see that eventually this road fee cash cow was going to go away. And it was pretty close to going away now. So I think somebody has to sit down, the boards, I've lived with many boards and several general managers. And the board has to bring the general manager in and just ask the simple question, where do we make the cuts? Not just where do we add to the budget, okay? But anyway, listen, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Always good to hear from you. Appreciate it. And you make a good point about the road fees. And that was, again, one of the items that the ad hoc committee looked at. And one of the reasons why on the referendum, there's a question about capital contribution. In a sense, it would be a buy-in to the community, looking at those road fees and seeing that those are going to diminish over time. And large scale associations like LOA often turn to two sources. One is a capital contribution. The other is a foundation. And those are two ways that big associations like ours can continue on and be vital. And why are we here? We're here to increase the value of the private lots. And so these are ways that we can do that. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate hearing from you. Let's take one more on Zoom. Do we have another? And then we'll switch back to the room. Go ahead, Zoom caller. Anyone there? Can go ahead and start speaking. Let's see if we can hear you. Okay, Carolyn, we're going to switch back to in person. Oh, wait, there we go. Go ahead and say your name, please.
Hi, this is Jordi, lot 242 in section 8. First of all, thank you for doing the very unpopular job that you're doing. I know there's a lot of criticism. I got a couple of questions for you, and since you're at the microphone, Phil, let me address them to you. When you're speaking of the fees you charge for the campground storage and the trailer storage on Lakeview there, those are all for use of each individual space, correct?
Use of each individual, I didn't hear the last word.
So what?
Yes,
you rent the parking spot.
Yes.
That parking spot is maintained by Lake of the Woods. It's gravelled by Lake of the Woods. The gate is maintained by Lake of the Woods and all that, correct?
Yes, but you got to mow it. You got to, there's a joint responsibility. You got to keep it cleaned up and you got to mow it.
Okay.
Yes,
so
take care of the gravel.
On the dock fee that you're posing, that's a similar use fee as those amenities. So is now my dock going to be painted by Lake of the Woods every year? Is it going to be maintained by Lake of the Woods? The bulkhead surrounding that that I pay for, is that going to be maintained by Lake of the Woods since I'm going to be paying that dock fee?
No, you will be responsible for your own dock. We're responsible for the lake. You're responsible for the dock.
Okay, but it's it's the same type of fee as would be in a storage lot, which is maintained by Lake of the Woods.
I got your point. You made it well made.
Okay, so I just want everybody to know that.
Okay, thank
That
you.
was it. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Jordy. Appreciate it. All right, and so Carolyn says one more. Okay, one more from Zoom. They probably have their sweats on. They're probably relaxed. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, caller. Zoom caller. Say your Latin section name. Okay, we're going to switch back. We'll check one more time back on Zoom, but we're going to switch here to the room, sir. You've been very patient. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Tom Francis. I'm Section 8, Lot 1. So to start with the positives, I really enjoy living in this neighborhood. I think for the most part, the fees we pay are relatively reasonably priced. This is not about the money. So thanks to the board. I know you work really hard. Thank you, Phil. I know you do as well. So here's the thing, right? So I'm in the same boat. I'm against this fee. I'm against the fee because it's not about the money. It's about the means and the methods. And I think it's a dangerous precedent. We shouldn't go there. Some people have talked about legalities. A wise man said to me just a few minutes ago, it isn't about whether you can, it's about whether you should. So I think you should take a close look at that. This is the nose underneath the tent. And I think that's what has everybody nervous, is that if you go down this road, if you set a new precedent as to how we're assessed, then where does that end? What else might that include? I mean, it just opens up a whole world of question marks. You mentioned that it was an education to me tonight to learn, how the community works insofar as the association owns the lake, right? So that's good information. But then I would ask you that if that is the case, and there are large wake boats running around on the lake now, creating these 3-foot wakes. I spent about $2,600 this year in erosion mitigation along my 270 linear feet of lakefront. So if that's your water, are you liable for that?
The answer is no. But we will do our best to try to manage the wake boats. And I'm glad Chief Harrell is here because we've restricted him in our regulations and the boat patrol is out there looking for those kinds of things to
And
prevent
I
damage.
appreciate that. And they do a wonderful job. No complaints on your crew. They're A1. The wake boats are on the lake. They're not going anywhere. They're just big boats with big engines and they create big wakes. Whether they're doing wake surfing or not really doesn't matter. It's new erosion. Again, I wouldn't trade my lot for anything in the world. So it's not a complaint. But it's the water coming from it's your water hitting my property.
Understood. And the wake boat study we did back last year and finished up in the spring was all about trying to prevent that damage. And it was loud and clear back then that lot owners didn't want to see erosion on the banks. So we think we're doing the kinds of things to prevent that.
You're taking this as my criticism of these boats and a criticism of the water. That isn't it at all. That's not my point. But if you take the position that you own that water, I'm not sure you really want to go down that route.
Well,
because it opens up a can of worms that you may not want to deal
we're
with.
we're lucky to have the water as it passes its way through on the way to Chesapeake Bay. So
Amen.
It's It's here in our lake, and then it's down the spillway into the Rapidan, to the Rappahannock, and then the Chesapeake Bay. So whether it belongs to the Commonwealth or belongs to the Lord is it's coming through our
They
lake
were
at some
your
point.
words, Phil, not mine.
Okay.
You own the water. So again, it's not about the money. It's not about the $100. If I have to pay $100 more in some different way to live here, I will happily do it and not bat an eye. I think though, when you come after more money in the way that you're doing it, then it becomes additionally difficult to swallow. When in my personal opinion, I look at other things like the deficit at the club, when the club is just not open to create additional revenues in so many different ways that seem like low-hanging fruit. We're covering that deficit. Let's solve that problem. And then with the money that you save there, you won't need a dock fee.
Point well made, Tom. And
Great.
and we are looking at ways of doing that on the clubhouse. We have to try to do all sorts of work different
Yep.
ways. Yeah.
So my last thing to
Okay.
the board, again, I appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you very much. I really enjoy the neighborhood, and if you go down this road though, I will never vote for any of you again. And I will go after anybody who runs against you.
All right. It looks like we've got someone coming up. Have you got a new question?
Yeah, this is a new comment now.
Okay, new comments?
Yep, new comment.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
an observation that you made a statement earlier on about higher weight and higher horsepower. Higher horsepower does not equal bigger wakes. Okay, period. I can see slow pontoon boats going along and creating a wake. Not as big as some of the wake boats, but I just needed to clarify for you because I've been at sea most of my life. I understand what wake does. It is not higher horsepower. That's all I just want to add.
Understood. Thank you. And there are a lot of factors. Horsepower could be one. The hull shape could be another. Weight could be another. All that's addressed. And if you want to read that study, it's on loa.org. You can look up the AMT wakeboat study and read for yourself what was written.
Agreed and understood, but you made the statement of higher horsepower equals higher wakes earlier on. I just need to clarify.
I said that's okay. Good point. Thank you, Simon.
Different comment.
Appreciate your input. All right, Gary, go ahead.
Gary Weber, Section 6, Lot 65. I had a business for 30 years handling nonprofits that had boards. They were volunteer boards. They were little Napoleons. They never got in power anywhere else, but they got elected to the board. Now they can do anything. We have that problem by the comments I've heard from letters coming back. We're the board, we can do it. They are here to serve us. You say it's the association's lake? No, it's our lake. We make up the association. So I think it's time for a recall or a vote out of board members who do not represent the best interest of the members. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Now, I'll let board members speak for themselves, but I would say they make themselves available for coffee and conversations by email at the board meetings, et cetera. So they're available to you. And, I know they want to hear from your comments, and they've heard you tonight. They're here present, and you can talk to them informally if you'd like as well.
Hi,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Barbara Constantino, Section 13, Lot 24. I'm going to change the subject, get away from the water. Can you tell me, is there a list of the salaries, the actual salary that each employee gets that we pay for here?
There is not. That's available to the membership. The membership can request the top 6 paid over 75,000. And you have to do that in writing, and you have to have a proper purpose. And if you'd like to write us, you can send an email to the GM's office or to the board, and we'll follow up with you on that.
Is there a reason why it's set up that way?
That's to protect the individuals. You can see the aggregate numbers. We show you lots of detail on aggregate numbers. You can look at it by department. You can look at it all together. But that's the way it's been set up, and that's in state law.
Oh, is it
that,
state law?
that you
Mhm.
share, we share the top six, and we do that. As long as it's in writing and it has a proper purpose, we'll send that out.
And who decides the proper purpose, you or the state? Is there a
Well,
list of
a
like from the
proper
state,
purpose
these are
is-
the
could be a
proper
simple.
purposes for the request, or
Well,
how does
if
that work?
it's, if you were going to somehow use it for a business, which I know you're not.
No.
If you say, I'm a dues paying member here, I'm in good standing, and I would like to know just so I can understand the finances, that meets the proper purpose.
Okay.
It's a pretty low bar, but what we want to make sure is nobody's trying to use it for their own benefit somehow. like
Nefarious
a
reasons,
commercial
okay.
Or
okay.
business use.
I
Yeah.
get that. The other question I have is, do you happen to know how much money you have received from those builders who have built on lots? I understand there's a fees to cover for the road repairs that they
Yeah.
damage.
Can you?
Do you know what that total fee is this year? Do you have that?
Yeah, we can talk to you about what's budgeted and what we've received.
Yeah,
Sure.
so just to make sure I understand, it's new construction renovation fees?
Yes, sir.
That we're trying, yeah, so for this fiscal year, we've received just over 194,000 for this so far this year, for this fiscal year.
And how much of that have you spent on the roads that they do damage? Since I'm living through this right now, and I asked the builder, are you going to fix this mess that's now in front of my home? And they said, no, the association's going to fix this mess that we have created in front of your home. So who does this? And do you actually take that money and actually fix the roads that all these trucks have messed up coming and going and building the home?
Well, I'll take it on, then I'll ask Joe to add some comments as well. And so, first of all, the money we take in can be used in different amenities, but we have a five division we've divided all all the roads into 5 plans, and we do a plan each year. And so this year, coming year, we're going to do section C, which I believe is sections 10, 11, 12. That'll be with the chip and tar program. But we also go around and take care of any problems that pop up. And I've been on your road and I see exactly what you mean. It's right there in
It's
the
a
middle.
mess. It's
a
a
mess.
mess.
And so we need to let this contractor finish up. And then that's where Joe and the roads department comes in. Joe, you want to say anything about chip and tar on repairs?
Yeah, that's when I first came here, that's an awesome thing that you guys have here.
Stay
in
on the
reference
mic,
to
because-
fixing your roads. And so like you said, every year, they allocate some money to continue on fixing the roads here. And that's been doing ever since I've been seeing the books every year. So we're constantly working on the roads, in reference to the contractors and so forth. But that money is going towards those roads.
Okay, my concern is because where I live, okay, the house is almost completed. I have taken a lot of photos, the before and the after, so I can prove what it was and what it is now. And I'm just really concerned, are we going to pass the buck from the contractor and he's going to say, no, I've already talked to him. He says, no, it's the association's going to fix all this mess, but I have photos to show the before and the after.
Right.
So I just want to know, is it going to be a long-term thing where that the homeowners have to deal with the mess that the contractor made with all the trucks coming and going? Because the road was not in good repair when you got there. And because of those heavy trucks coming and going, it's even worse now. And we have to live with that right now. So I'm just wanted to put that on the radar for you folks, because I'm keeping quite track of everything. And I do have the photos to show you.
What I could do is that, as we go through our schedule, I'm gonna write down your address and so forth and your lot.
Okay.
And I could keep you informed where we are in reference to the roads,
Sure.
repairs.
Sir, I understand that you're always working on the roads, but my point is that when a contractor comes and builds, I'm told that there is a fee that he pays for the mess they're going to make on the road. And I wanted to know if that actual fee is going to go now on the road that sits in front of my home that they messed up.
And the answer is it doesn't necessarily go there, but we have the obligation to
Fix it.
repair your road.
Okay.
We're, the Lake of the Woods Roads Department is going to repair the chip and tar in front of your road. You asked me to go look at the street signs. I went over there. I'm like, my goodness, look at this.
Mhm.
And so that we got to let them finish what they're doing.
Yeah, they
Finish
do
on
have
the
to
lot,
finish,
get
yeah.
all the way out. And then once they're all the way out, that's when we'll repair it. So we're
Okay.
doing the division, I'm missing the word, it's not section, but the division C, and it includes 10, 11, 12, but also we'll look around for hotspots, and that's definitely in your cul-de-sac, that's a place that needs to be repaired. So Joe.
Because in the
we'll follow up on
past,
that.
you've done the chip and tar thing,
Right.
but you've done it a little bit messy. And so the big hole always comes back. I've got all these photos of everything. So it's like you patch it up, but it's not for a very long time
Yeah.
and it just comes all back. And so then the contractor comes in and then now it's really, even worse than ever.
Can I
But
have your lot and your section number, please?
it's section 13, lot 24. You can't miss the house that's just been built.
Yeah,
It's-
you can
it's-
see it from Route 3,
I
right?
hear so many people ask me about this. That's another thing. They asked me, how could the association agree to have all those trees that backed up to the road cut down?
We didn't
I-
agree to that.
You did?
We did not agree to that. We did not want them to do that, and they cut down the buffer. That was a problem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's horrible. It's just horrible what they've done. And so they did not get approval. Okay.
No, they did not.
Do you do anything about that or?
As much as we can, we don't have a fine system here, and that's one of the items that's on the referendum. It's like you're pitching me softballs here. That we used to have a system where we could give fines, and we don't have that system anymore. But I guarantee you the ECC has spoken to that contractor, and it was actually a subcontractor that did it, and it was not satisfactory.
I have pictures of before and after, and I did
Mhm.
specifically talk to the the builder who built it all about this prior to him coming in
Yeah.
and taking the
Yeah.
trees down. So he was well informed that that probably shouldn't be done, but okay, thank you,
Thank
Phil.
you, Barbara.
Thank you, Phil.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Barbara, I'll keep in touch with you.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Lauren Cotton, Section 7, Lot 133. Back to the dock fee. I can't sit here for over 2 hours and not chime in with my 2 cents, which really isn't more than what anyone has already said. I just cannot agree with it. I have no problem with our annual assessment going up. I understand budget shortfalls and I understand not having those extra road fees that we've always counted on for all those years, but I just don't understand why the waterfront lots are I feel like I'm being penalized. I'm actually in a little bit of a position than probably all of you are. Coincidentally, my dock was ripped out last week and I'm in the process of getting ready to have it replaced. My neighbor texted me this morning and asked if my husband was protesting the dock fee. No, I have a $12,000 bill sitting on my dining room table that needs to be paid to my contractor. I pay dearly to have this main lake waterfront. I pay, like people have said before, when your water fill beats against my bulkhead and makes me have to prematurely replace my bulkhead and my dock. And I'm not complaining. I love where I live, but I pay for mine. And it's not the $100. It's how we have gotten here. I don't golf. We all pay for golf. I should go to the fitness center. I don't. I pay for everybody needs to be paying for the amenities equally.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, it looks like we've exhausted the questions in the room. Do we have any more? Carolyn says there are 2 more on Zoom. So we'll take 2 more on Zoom, please. Go ahead. Go ahead, Zoom.
This is Wendy Waltney.
Speak up a little bit, please. Your name, your lot section. Repeat, please.
Section 13. I live on the Little Lake.
I'm having trouble hearing you. We're having trouble hearing you.
I'm not sure why.
Okay, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Living on the Little Lake, I find we all know that the Little Lake has had problems, and I've been up here many times talking about it. The fee for my dock is adding insult to injury. I can't use my dock after June. I can't use my boat after June. In the last 3 years, we've been closed down from July, August, all the holidays, and I can't use it. Now I have to pay a fee for something that I can use maybe part of May, all of June, and possibly not the rest of the year. My suggestion is if you want to do something that's a little bit more across the board for everybody, how about we do something about some kind of fee for beaches? There are people on the beach that I can't even use anymore because they're in here. I don't know how they get in here. They don't live here. Maybe we could do something about a fee to pay somebody to make sure that those who are on the beach actually live here and they use our beaches. I don't necessarily want to pay for a dock and not be able to use a beach when I'm paying an association fee also. That's all I had to say.
All right, thank you very much. No, Wendy for that one. All right, I think that was Wendy Gwaltney, right? Okay, thank you, Wendy. All right, another caller on Zoom, please.
Yes,
Go
my name is
ahead.
Carlos Escudero. I'm in lot 13. I'm sorry, section 13, lots 87 and 88. I just want to know what is the next steps regarding this assessment on the docks. I'm totally against it, but I just want to know if this is a fait accompli, already being approved, or there's nothing we can do about it, or there's going to be a referendum about it. I mean, what are the next steps if you could just take us through it? Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Carlos. Good question. And the next step is for the board to vote on the budget, and that vote takes place on February 3rd. So this has been included in the budget. It will be discussed tomorrow at the board meeting. You can speak there at the January 17th board meeting at 2 p.m. But the meeting that's sort of the ultimate time for the board to decide on amendments is February 3rd. So that's a Saturday meeting. That would be at 10 a.m. Those are two opportunities. It's available on Zoom and in person here at the community center. Good question. All right. Do we have a last caller? That's it? All right. Anybody else? All right. May I say, I've done this 12 times, and this is one of the highest attended and most input that we've ever gotten on the budget. I really, truly appreciate you coming out tonight. Everybody was well spoken and made a lot of great points. We made notes, and as I said, the board members were here. We appreciate your time. Be very safe going home, please.